recording?
Of course we
Yes.
are.
We've never made that mistake before.
Nope, just the first time, maybe the second time. Still, you'll never know because it always works. And because if it didn't work, you wouldn't know. It would only be us. But Steeg, welcome back. It is Monday, February 6th, the first Monday in February, and we are here on what should be a regularly scheduled program from here on out, for the most part.
God, I hope so. Because there are times that I'm like, are we gonna do it on Sunday? Or we're gonna do it on Thursday? Are we gonna do it on Saturday? No, we'd never do it on a Saturday.
Friday and Saturday is where I draw the line.
Yeah, I'd even squeeze a Thursday, but
yeah, that was always tough when we did it there. So when we came up with this plan, during the winter break, we all kind of had ideas of what we were going to do next. And we kind of had a meeting. We came up with this plan. I said, this is going to be great. We're going to do the roundup on Mondays because we normally would write it on Sunday afternoon and release it on Monday when we did it as a written forum. And it's going to be great. And then literally the next Monday was MOK and a Bucks playoff game. So we said, we're not going to do it that week. And then the preceding next 2 Mondays, I couldn't be there because I have a crazy schedule and I pick up shows that work in the evenings. So, the best laid plans, but here we are and we're back. And we're going to be doing this consistently here on Monday nights at 9:00 until Steeg and I go to Europe. Not together, but
No, we're going to go to Europe together. That's the plan. We're going to both go. We're going to have a beautiful time. Yeah, I'm looking through. Yeah, it should always be on Mondays. I literally have nothing else going on Mondays except for the fact that I go to the gym on Mondays. I go to the gym every day. So it's no different. Oh, I'm getting swole.
Watch out, ladies.
Watch out, ladies. I went for a run today. And let me tell you something about that. Shit sucks, but I felt better.
It's good.
So much better.
It's just better. You too could be a USF long distance runner.
I took it upon myself because we kept on shitting on long distance running, like cross country and the mile run, which I'm gonna lead into that here in a little bit. And I was like, how difficult is it to run a mile fast? And me, without prepping, doing any, I'll do weights and I'm an avid pickleball player, but I don't really do cardio. I was like, how hard can it be to run a mile? And then I did it in 8 minutes. And I was like, God, this shit sucks. I see why it sucks.
And an 8-minute mile is nothing to scoff at. That is not easy in itself, especially for someone who doesn't really train in this.
Right. I would not be able to sustain that 8-minute mile. I'll tell you that much. If it was a 5K or something like that, I think that first 2Ks was going to be, speed demon, and then I was going to walk the rest of it.
So, as someone who does run, to do cardio mostly for my exercise, I do enjoy outside running. My brother ran cross country. I never did. But that's what always got me into it. I consistently do about 4 miles. I always make sure I do a 5K, but every time I see people do half marathons and full marathons, it's something I want to do, but I cannot imagine running that much in one shot, especially in Florida. It just doesn't. No, it felt like the summer outside today. Just not easy.
I think my max that I would get at is probably a 10K. That I don't want to. I'm not going to set a goal for myself. I should for this show. I should, but 10K is probably where I'm going to max out at, because I think after that I would hit the wall for a really long time, and I don't think I would get to a half. I think my body would just not let me do that. So we'll see how long it takes for me to consistently run a 10K, and then we'll live stream it and see what happens.
I like that. Sometime before the end of the year. I don't know when. If it's going to be soon or the summer or later. Steeg and Vito are going to run a 10K somewhere, or maybe just by ourselves.
Let's do the Disney 10K for food and wine, and then just get shit faced after.
See, that's a good idea. Just not the turkey trot. I'm not doing turkey trot. I can't.
No, we will not. No, we'll just have Molly and Paige sleep in while we run for. I don't even know how long a traditional 10K would last, and then we'll go from there. I'm gonna have to run shirtless because I've been terrified ever since of the nipple chafe. Because I've seen the people that I've seen the people that bleed through their shirts and everything like that. So once I get past once I start getting nipple chafe when I'm doing this training, that's when I'm gonna start running shirtless, because I know what'll happen after. God, we went off the rails really deep there.
We didn't even talk about. I didn't even talk about your week. I thought we were going to be talking about musicals. That's even better. This is great.
No, we'll lead in musicals elsewhere. We'll have a musical discussion somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. So, how'd USF Athletics do this week, Steeg?
They did well. Just put some tape. Yeah, I'm gonna put duct tape on my nipples. I'm gonna do that.
I always think about that How I Met Your Mother episode with Marshall. Just with you know what? Never mind. You either know it or you don't.
I was about to say you lost me. Let's see. They won USF Olympic Sports won more than they lost. So
And
that's great.
Men's basketball.
Yes. So I think we can consider this week a success. We'll start with the difficult one. The men's basketball, the USF men's basketball, defeated East Carolina 71-63, swept them. That is only the third sweep in Brian Gregory's tenure here at the University of South Florida. That is his only third conference sweep that he has had. No comment. But they had a steady, handy lead there for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And I was watching the game, and slowly but surely the announcers kind of mentioned, I think it was like somewhere in like the 12-minute mark at the second half. They were like, oh, if ECU can string together a few possessions here, they might, make this into an interesting game. And I was like, yeah, right. Like ECU's like not a great scoring team. Like they were not scoring consistently throughout this entire season. And guess what? They consistently scored. My friends. They consistently scored for about 6 minutes there. So they actually outscored USF in the second half, 33-27. USF was leading at halftime, 44-30. So a 14-point lead was erased pretty handily. Actually, I think it was like leading by at least 20 at one point.
Up by 2 touchdowns at the half is still too much time for Holton Ahlers.
Right. God, if only he played basketball too, we would just never hear the end of it. But overall, I mean, I hate to say it at this point, and I hate to say it at this point in Brian Greger's juncture, but a win is a win, and we should be thankful for it. Because that could have very easily been a disastrous ending. And I'm actually looking up real quick what the largest lead for USF was. I think it was quite a bit. Largest lead was 23. So for them to at least win this game, haphazardly only winning by, 8, not great when you're leading by that many points. But hey, a win is a win at the end of the day. Moves them inching ever so closely back to over 500, ever so precariously inching towards maybe being 500 in conference. That's to be seen, to be determined. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games left. They are sitting at 3-7. So if my math is correct, if they lose 2 more games, they will not be able to get over 500 for the 6th straight season under Brian Gregory.
Steeg, do they get to play ECU again?
God, I wish we could just play ECU every week.
Unfortunately, I don't like those odds. But I mean, They played a really, really great first half, and I think Brian Gregory said they played a really good 30 minutes, and just when you can build a good lead, you can weather that storm, and at least they didn't give it up. But still, at the end of that game, and I didn't actually get to watch this because I was working, but I kept seeing the score being as big as it was, and people on Twitter were complaining. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I realized what ended up happening was the storm back. Luckily, ECU wasn't able to close. But looking at these stats, in the first half, USF shot 55% from the floor and 61% from beyond the arc, which is incredible. And in the second half, it's 40% and then 20%. So when the 3-point shooting is on fire the first half and it cools down significantly, they didn't get any uptick inside the paint, so that ends up happening. But Steeg, tell me about the free throw percentage.
I'm trying to read. Oh shit! I can't read what your notes were.
Okay, sorry. So they shot 75% from the charity stripe, which
now I see it.
I mean, that's awesome, right? If they shot 75% from the free throw line and most of their losses, they might win them.
Right. So. It's a tale as old as time with these teams that have been put forth that we're blessed to watch. That if they shoot their free throws, they historically win. It's the easiest way, and it's unfortunate, but they've at year 6, you don't know what they're doing in practice. None of us know how it's going or anything like that. But the consistent struggles from the charity stripe, the freest thing that you could ask for is just it's an anomaly. It's truthfully one of the weirdest things, because this is transcending teams, this is transcending players, this is transcending whatever rims they decide to use. I don't know what goes on. I don't know what happens, but they're cursed in some aspect. But the only really negative part about this game, because again, positive takes only, they won the game and we're blessed for it. Russ Chewa nearly single-handedly lost this game at the end. So the real hotly contested point was when Russ Chewa actually got ejected at the end for throwing an elbow. And very quickly, I think at that point, USF was only leading by 6. And very quickly, that could have been very bad, because it was going to be 4 free throws, and I think they missed 2 of them. And then when USF went down, and I think hit a 3 to extend the lead a little bit more, and then ECU just could not. At that point, I think that's when USF went up. Yes, so USF, it was 68-63, and then USF hit that 3, and then it was 71-63. And then the game basically ended right after that. My app literally said that there was 21 seconds left, and then it just ended. But Russ Shewa ended with a double-double at least. So 10 points, 11 rebounds, 1 flying elbow. Pretty solid night, if I do say so myself. Yeah, and then Jameer Chaplin, our love. I think we all affectionately love Jameer Chaplin. He's just a scrappy, lovingly done individual. Came up with 17 points. So in all, if they play like they do in the first half, they're really good. And then just don't do what you did in the second half going forward, and just play like you did in the first half all game.
If you would, where's Andy Taylor 6? If you would simply play like you played in the first half for all of your halves, you would win a lot of games. And
if they hit all their free throws,
if
they hit all their shots.
Tyler Harris with a cool 21 points. Again, I think he's the best shooter I've seen at USF in a very long time, at least since I've been watching the games. He's just so good when he's on. But I hate that they got to win. That's all that matters. 3 guys in double figures, and they played really, really well in the first half. I come to suspect that this team won't be able to be that great for a full game. Well, except against the UCF, apparently. So we'll see what ends up happening. But they got to win. So they're 10-13 overall, 3-7 in the conference. And their next game, they try to avenge that loss to Memphis at home on Wednesday. So 2 days at 7 p.m. So SoFlo Rodeo, pack the foam dome, because we need to get that win. And Penny Hardaway frustrated is very funny to see.
Yes. Tickets for the game are more than they should be. So if you have not gotten your ticket, try to get it from a friend or someone that's going to be selling it last second. It's and this is going to sound like the biggest faux pas ever. They're tickets are $25 in the 200 section. Those are normally $5 tickets. You can normally walk up and they'll just hand them to you. Penny Hardaway typically draws a crowd here in Tampa. Wonder why. So it's no question there. And Memphis
all y'all Magic fans that are out there, specifically someone in the chat who I know is a Magic fan.
Yeah. But yeah, Memphis is on a little bit of a skid right now, so we'll see if they have their get right game. I wonder if they're going to have their get right game against USF. That's never happened before.
Never. They got swept by Tulane, who's good at basketball. So riddle me that. Anyway, women's basketball. So the Shooty Hoops went undefeated this week. Women's basketball beat ECU it was last Tuesday. It was the day, one of the days after we ended up streaming. And they won at home 72-48. So ECU did not have a good time in Tampa. They had a huge fourth quarter, 24-12 advantage to pull away. It was never that close. Sammy Puisa's 23 points, 7 of 14 from 3-point range. When she's on 50%. That's just draining triples is just how you can pull away easily. Carla Brito, we mentioned, freshman, was getting valuable minutes, playing really well defensively. Finally had an offensive outbreak, 20 points on 8 of 13 field goals. So she finally is getting some action. And then Dulcie, again, walking double-double, 13 points, 14 rebounds. They shot 47% from the field and nearly 40% from beyond the arc. That's just textbook USF what Jose wants to play with this team. When you play like that, you're going to win like that. And when they're on, again, they're fun to watch. They look like they were having fun out there during that game. And then even though they're high flying out there, still in the paint, they out-rebounded ECU 41-34. Again, Dulcie had 14 rebounds. It's hard to beat that team when they're on, and USF is undefeated at home. That is just a crazy statistic that they're this deep in the season. They're 22-4 and 11-0, and undefeated at home. So that's just how important it's been being at home.
Right. And and what am I saying? It's great when you are undefeated at home, and it's really good when you play a really tough team at home. I'm trying to foreshadow a little bit here. ECU was no slouch this year. They had their moments of glory and greatness. They have one of the best freshmen in the league right now. I think she's won nearly all of the Freshman of the Week honors. And she's been just absolutely on a tear for ECU. She's single-handedly kind of turning around that team a little bit. So it's, to play a really tough team at home, I think is a really big advantage for USF. And it's really nice to be undefeated at home.
It is. So with that being said, this late in the year, it is very hard to play any team in conference on the road. So with that win against ECU, Jose Fernandez tied Gino Auriemma for the most wins in AAC history. And then win number 119 came in Dallas at SMU, 65-63, in a game where they were trailing for most of the contest. SMU was very good this game. They went out to an 18-8 advantage in the first. Strong second quarter by USF, 24-14. And then SMU dominated in the third quarter. Normally USF would come out in third quarter strong, get a big lead, and then be able to coast to victory. But this time SMU won the third quarter 21-16. And there were some people who were starting to get a little worried about if this was the clunker. And the big reason is they only shot 18% from three-point land. And there was no lack of trying. So they changed it up. They shot 42% overall. And the big one is they shot 100% from the free throw line. All of their free throws they made, and they needed every single one of them. So what ended up happening is they kept giving it to Dulcie, scored 21 points, had 8 rebounds, so didn't get that double-double, but a lot of she was getting the ball a lot in the paint and was winning those contests a lot. USF did have a lot of offensive rebounds too, and second chance points would helped a lot, especially ice the game at the end. Elena Chineke, 15 points, and Sammy had 14 points on 4 of 10 shooting and 2 of 5 from 3. She was the best behind the arc by far. But again, only shooting 18%. If I showed you those stats, you would think they would lose. And in years past, they definitely would. But USF won. And it was a scrappy victory. And they came out of Dallas with the victory. And even the announcers were surprised. Not surprised that they could come back, but were able to handle it because SMU played a near flawless game.
Right. A lot of the SMU offensive firepower came from Jasmine Smith.
Yes.
She had, I think, 26 points, I want to say.
She had 26 points.
Yeah.
11 for 21 from the field and 4 of 10 3-point. But she missed both of her free throw attempts, which would have tied the game.
Yes, which was the amazing part. And at the end there, the last 10 seconds of the game was just maddening. Essentially, SMU had the ball with chance to tie/win with about 15 seconds left. I guess they went for the tie and tried to go for a jumper. Ariel Wilson came down with a rebound, jump ball, and USF retained possession and everything like that. And immediately turned it back over to SMU with 7 seconds left. So with 7 seconds left, SMU went for a little cheeky little Jasmine Smith gets Jasmine Smith is inbounding it. Jasmine Smith passes it to her teammate who just throws it right back to her, and she shoots it from around 3. And on the first glance on the shot of how they had it showing, I thought Ariel Wilson just body checked her. because of the way that Jasmine Smith kind of moved her body. But I think it was because she was playing for the foul more than she was playing for the actual shot itself, because the shot basically got blocked. It went like 5 feet. But she really kind of played it up, and she looked at the ref for like a second, and the ref said no. And she was like, okay. She's like, I didn't fool you. But the coach for SMU was pissed, of course, because, you could potentially win the game there, 3 free throws. She's 0 for on the line at that point, but, maybe she hits 2 of 3 or something like that. It's a completely different ball game. But again, a really gritty, and actual gritty win by the women's basketball team. They've had some close games this year, but it was close within their control. They kind of just let off the gas for a little bit. And, the Houston game comes to mind. They were up by, I think, like 15 in the fourth quarter at one point. Houston just kind of crawled their way back in, and then it was a 5-point victory. So nothing like that. This was like gritty, like, oh shit, I was giving up. I was like, I think Sammy missed a 3 that would have, brought us within like 6. And I was like, yep, all right, we'll pack it in. We're fine. We'll chalk it up. It's really hard to go undefeated in the conference. It's really hard to go undefeated in any conference. So I just kind of chalked it up. But ye of little faith, wink, wink, didn't believe in us there at the end.
He was doing low reverse jinx in the Discord if you're in it. Again, if you follow the Twitch, we'll get you an invite to the Discord, and you can watch our banter during game threads and all sorts of things. But yeah, Steeg's like, nope, it's done, F. And then all of a sudden, they came back, and I it's one of those things when you're not on from 3-point land, especially a team that wants to be, you need to find another way to win, and they did, and they keep doing this, especially in the conference. So the only question is, a lot of these road games, even Memphis last week came down. I mean, they kept them at arm's length, but still, it was a closer game than it probably should have been. So is it just fatigue coming down the stretch? Is it just hard to win on the road? All of those things can factor into this. So that's why it would be really great for them to be able to host, but I'm not certain that's going to happen. They're currently sitting at 29th in net, so they inched up a little bit. And again, they undefeated at home, only 1 loss on the road, because the other 3 losses came into neutral site games at tournaments. So it's just a very impressive resume to us, but it's kind of hard to move up in this conference that isn't turning out to be very good. But if you were to lose this game, you probably tumble, and your seed probably tumbles with you. So being able to get out a win, at the end of the day, they're looking at the win-loss. So if you're able to get the win, they don't care how it is. If they see the L, they don't care how that part is either. They saw the L, and then they'll hit you for that. Again, the big thing, they out-rebounded their opponent again, 41-24. And they had 34 points in the paint to SMU's 26. And that was how you can change the game, by doing that. SMU played a really strong game, and now you're starting to get everybody's best chance, because they want to be able to take down the number 1. And last week they were 25 in the AP poll. Now they crept up to 24. So every little bit, every little bit is going to help.
They finally cracked the athletics power rankings as well. So they're ranked 25th in the athletics power rankings, which the athletic is the least objective of all of them. Like they take true, they do a lot more research than your average bear. Prime example, Middle Tennessee State was ranked in their power rankings for a good bit there. The top 20s, Oklahoma, Villanova, Gonzaga, Iowa State, and Colorado. And then Creighton, Middle Tennessee State, Baylor, and USC are on the outside looking in. So a pretty stacked little group to be within there when you consider basketball powerhouses. I just wish that was men's and not women's at times.
Yep. That's it's a little tough that way. But so USF is 29th in net, and they're behind Alabama, who's 24. They're 17-6. And that Alabama team is a team USF beat in Tampa. I'm actually looking at this. I didn't realize Ohio State is 16th right now, but they have 4 losses. I like to think the USF tape is how people saw how you can beat them, because they should have beat them. But yeah, I mean, you look at these top teams, some of the losses from USF this year. Michigan is net 15. Ohio State's net 16. Where's it? I saw them. NC State's net 11. And Villanova's net 14. Those are your 4 losses. All top 15 teams. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's how good this team is. And you went toe to toe with Ohio State. So this
Right.
team is good, and hopefully they can get a good seed to be able to prove that and not have to play, a UConn or a South Carolina or a Stanford or Indiana in the second round, because that's what kills you. It's like you can be very good. You could be top 15, top 10 good, but if you're going to play a top 3 team, especially in women's basketball, you're not always going to win. So that's hopefully that they get something. I see the joke. Yeah, still get a 16 seed and be against UConn. Yeah, that would be very par for the course. But at least now Jose can say, I own the all-time record for wins in the AAC over Gino. A couple of tidbits. They're on a 12-game winning streak. That's one shy of a program record. Program record. So they can get that on their next game, which is at home on Sunday versus Houston, who again is very tough defensively. So that's a tough game. But they only play 2 more road games, at C and at Cincinnati. Cincinnati closes the year. So the rest of their harder games versus Houston versus Yep. It's hard not to say program. It just rolls off the tongue. So their tough games are at home, and then they just don't go to Oviedo and lose would be my big thing there.
Yeah, I think even at this point, going undefeated in a conference slate is very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. I would be totally fine losing one game here. Just don't make it that one,
please. That's one where you just can't. Don't lose that one.
Bury them. Win by score 100. Bury them.
Based on how they play at home, I don't see them losing to Cincinnati, but based on how they're playing at home, I mean, I'm not sure if it's a crowd situation or just being at home, but like the games are almost night and day.
Right. I think because we have a little bit of time, because we're going to bully through the rest of this here in a second. Mm-hmm. We did have an interesting discussion in the Discord the other day about kind of the what is to be expected of USF women's basketball scheduling wise, and the elephant in the room is once Cincinnati, Central Florida, and Houston leave, you kind of replace them in the women's basketball world with really not great teams across the board. I think of those schools that are joining, Rice is probably the only one that's consistently competitive. And so it becomes difficult because for USF in the past, their kind of sticking point was, they'd schedule tough out of conference. You would basically have to win every single conference game except for UConn. And you would have to play UConn really well in order to get any respect out of the committee once they place you in the tournament there. And so, the hope, at least whenever we would talk about, USF women's basketball, is you go above 500 out of conference. So you go maybe like 5-4, maybe 6-3 on a good year. Scheduling teams like Ohio State, Oregon, Stanford, tough teams, Florida State, whoever you can get on the schedule, you book them. You go undefeated in conference minus UConn. So, you automatically add another 2 losses. And then you make the conference championship game and you play against UConn and you lose ceremoniously and you get your silver medal and everything like that. You kind of end the year with what at that point you'd have 6 to 9 losses, depending on how it is. Mm-hmm. And you kind of just hope and pray that the committee says, oh, okay, they played really well at conference. They played UConn pretty well too. They took care of business the rest of the way. And, we will seed them accordingly. 16 seed. But now at this point, at least, Jose's recruiting at a very different level than the rest of the conference. And the preconceived notion about USF women's basketball now carries its own merit. You're almost kind of, not saying we're the new UConn, but you're almost like the new UConn of the American. Occasionally you'll get a team that, really punches above their weight, but they're a dime a dozen. And then they're basically a one-season wonder at that point. And then, the coach is usually going to be gone. But, for whatever reason, Jose loves this program, loves this state, and has decided to stick around. So, scheduling wise and how they can control this going forward is continue to schedule tough out of conference. No, there's no such thing as bad losses in those out of conference games anymore, because evidently if you win 20 conference games and you win the conference tournament, you're going to make the NCAA tournament anyways. It's just at this point, you're talking marginal differences between getting a 6 seed and getting a 9 seed at this point. Like, they're really not going to make a difference.
This season will tell a lot, because you'll be able to see there's a lot of games to be played. If you're able to get the double, I'm not even going to say if you get a loss here or not, then you're going to be able to see where you're at compared to years past where you are that 8-9 threshold seed. Can they jump to a 6? Can they get a 5 maybe? Some predictions have them at 6, but that's saying they run the table here, and that's very hard to do. But I mean, if you look at this with the net ratings, I mean, the next closest AAC team is Houston at 79. And you have a kind of a muddle in between there, SMU 88, Tulsa 89, Tulane 91, and then Rice is 95, ECU 97. So with, you take USF out of the equation, and that's kind of where the American is. So it's one of those things where it's like on the men's side, Houston is the clear number one team and also a clear number one team in the nation. So it hurts them having to play all these teams that are sub 150. So it's kind of the same here. The conference isn't going to help you any if you get the wins. The losses are what are going to hurt you. But how difficult or how different is it when you say you played 4 games, the 4 losses are the top 10 teams in net or top 15 teams in net? Is that going to help move the needle? If not, that's kind of where you're at, and that'll be very interesting. But I mean, blessed to have Jose stick around, and the way that he recruits is just very he's able to get international players. He's able to get now at this point transfers in to be able to play together. And this is probably one of the best teams I've seen, especially since Courtney Williams days. They can beat you in numerous different ways. So we're gonna see how the seeding ends up working out. But they just got to take care of business and not look at the number next to their name and not look at anything else. Just keep going.
Right. They can make a deep run here. They're like it's a very capable USF team. If all goes according to plan and all goes well, they should be able to make a deep run here. And I think the only other thing they can do is, hey, if you if you win, all of your out of conference games, I'd almost dare to say let's experiment and see if you just schedule Cupcake for 9 games and you run the table and you go 33-0, 35-0.
What happens at that point?
Yeah, what happened? What is the committee forced to kind of put respect on your name, or are they going to kind of say, "Oh, you're playing no ones"? But just a side tangent there, because I think it is fascinating how poor the AP voters have been towards women's basketball in years past, and how bad it's been this year as well. I mean, there are instances where yes, you can have mid-major biases and everything like that, but when USF is on a 12-game win streak and they're just barely scratching the surface on the AP top 25, and Iowa State loses 3 games out of their last 6 and they're still ranked ahead, it's like, all right, like I understand, Iowa State is having to play, Caitlin Clark and Ohio State and a few other good programs and everything like that, but who's to say that they're just kind of muddling along at this point? You can't if you're going to penalize a mid-major team harshly for losing, you need to also penalize the major teams for losing as well. Maybe not to the same severity. Like if they if Iowa State loses to like Ohio State, don't penalize them by dropping them out of the top 25. But if they lose to Nebraska, fuck yeah, drop them.
No, exactly. I see Oregon and Tennessee are net 18 and 19, and they have 9 and 8 losses respectively. I mean, you can analyze that and say, okay, who are they losing to? But 9 and 8 losses. I mean, I know net's kind of it doesn't take that into it. Takes your wins versus what your quality losses are and puts it into with strength schedule. But oh man, at some point, the wins and losses do have to matter, and eventually they will. So it's like you just got to take care of business, do your thing. And get in at that point. But I just keep saying it. This is a fun team to watch. Very impressive. Jose always does it. Congratulations on getting the all-time record for the AC. I know Gino hasn't been here for a while, but you finally have that. You can hang your hat on that. And before these programs leave and before the new programs in, you can put that crown on and say the king of AAC, king of the AAC when it comes to wins. So let's continue this. This will be fun to see. So again, they're at home against Houston on Sunday. So if they were dealing with any nagging injuries, you have about a week to be able to work with that. And let's wrap up the end of the season. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Sorry, I just looked at the Lightning score. They're losing 7-1.
Yeah, just turn that off. It got real bad once we started streaming.
Oh yeah.
So I will say
Go
I
on.
am Cerveza God. This is actually brought up. Seth Varner brought that up just as a kind of like a question. And I'm not, we'll have to bring Colin again on here to talk more about this. But generally on the international side, the men end up playing, going pro, kind of like how Luca did. And that's kind of, and then they end up getting drafted. So I think that's part of it where on the women's side, it's there's more of a come to the States and play at the college level before going to the WNBA or playing internationally, which is, I mean, it's great on their end because then they get these players that have just a ton of experience playing in all the national tournaments. So I believe that's part of it. Colin will be able to say more about that. But yeah, so Brian Gregory couldn't attempt to do that route because for the most part, they're going pro.
Hell yeah, they're doing it. I already mentioned game against Houston coming up at home, and then against Tulsa. I should really pull up the schedule. I have it right next to me too.
I got you covered. It's in one of these tabs. Where is it? Full schedule. Yeah, I just saw that Houston because that's next week at this point.
Yeah, they got a lot of time off.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of weird.
This is one of those.
Happening.
It's like men's basketball. They played last Wednesday, and then they don't play till this Wednesday. So every once in a while, you get that week. So they play, Sunday the 12th, and then turn around and go to Oviedo on Wednesday, the 15th.
Nice.
Which is the day after Valentine. That's fun. And then that Saturday, SMU. Yeah, so it's Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, SMU. Then the following Wednesday, Tulsa. Then they have a week before they go to Cincinnati. So this next 4-game stretch is actually within about 2 weeks. So
this is my favorite time of the year whenever we would normally do the roundup because I look at the schedule and I see a bunch of plus marks on the composite schedule, which tells me, oh yeah, we're in softball and track season now.
There's just a lot of stuff. Oh no, hey, look, there's a sailing regatta or something like that.
Yeah, you always get surprised. And it's like this Sunday, the 12th, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events going on. So hey, that's fun.
It's exciting. The AAC tournament starts March 6th. It's in Fort Worth. We were hoping that would be in Florida, but it is in Fort Worth. So exciting stuff.
Stupid. Put it in a better city. Put it in like New Orleans. I don't care. Give Tulane the home field advantage. I don't give a shit. Put it in a fun. Put those in a fun city. Yes, more like Fort Worth. Got him.
Yes. Just outstanding.
Outstanding, gentlemen. Let's. I'll take men's tennis here. Okay. We won't beat around the bush. They went up to Tennessee and they got their asses kicked. Let me tell you something. They'll have the great Volunteer State with 2 losses. They lost 7-0 to Middle Tennessee State on Friday. It was past Friday, and then they lost to Memphis this past Saturday. So 2 pretty quick-handed back-to-back losses like that. Middle Tennessee State, not a very bad tennis program by any stretch of the imagination this year. I think they're actually ranked top 20. They put together a pretty good roster here. So surprisingly, though surprised that they got swept the way that they did.
As friend of the pod, Senator Giggity said, there's not much to do in Murfreesboro, so they're just really good at tennis. There you go.
Correct. So doubles point came down to the third court. So at least they kind of kept it close there. But other than that, just a whole lot of nothings that happened on that Friday night. Can't really speak to much there. And it looks like they're still kind of working out the kinks. But again, tennis is one of those really weird sports that you can, start off the year like 0-6, go on like a 3-game tear, and then the ATP is going to rank you like top 60 for like no reason. So nothing to worry about. Ashley Fisher is one of those coaches that we don't tend to worry about too much around here. They know what they're doing. They've got enough pieces. They've got enough talent on their roster that, this just kind of figuring out, how to pair these guys up, because it's a lot like chess in the sense that, your best guy might be right-handed and their best guy might be left-handed, and that does not pair well for singles, but it might pair better for doubles. And there's a lot of factors that go on there. And then that Memphis loss, they lost 6-1. Alvin won in straight sets. Other than that, everyone else kind of got swept. Eric Revelius won his second set to bring that to a third. But other than that, not much competition there. Again, kind of left tail between the legs there.
We'll add that Alvin, because we mentioned this last time. So he is a player that is ranked. He's ranked number 67. So he did get a victory over the weekend against Memphis. Didn't get one against MTSU. So we'll see if that drops him. Maybe, hopefully, just 2 spots. Maybe he'll just drop 2 spots.
Hopefully, I hope so. Good if he does. I'm donating to Alvin's NIL fund. Actually, is he foreign? I can't remember. Is he from another country? Before we get to your segment here, Anthony.
Oh geez,
Mr. Vito, I need to get this off my chest for like the next 25 seconds here.
Oh no.
I really hope, and I don't have a lot of faith at times for state government and everything like that, but I really hope at some point state, local, and federal government can come together and figure out this NIL stuff for foreign athletes, because it is an absolute travesty that foreign-born players cannot cash in on NIL deals or opportunities. Really stupid loopholes exist within this country, and then these students being on student visas does not allow them to be employees or profit off of set employees like that for state government officials and universities. So women's basketball, the only 2 players that can really cash in on NIL opportunities at this time are Sammy Puisis and Bria Alvarez. And Bria Alvarez barely qualifies because she's, dual citizen with Colombia. The rest of the team, Elena Shanecki, Dulce, Carla Brita, none of them can get NIL opportunities. None of them can get NIL deals. It's a shame.
It's unfortunate. They need to figure that out. And yes, our Alvin is from Canada.
That's what I thought. Fast fact, Puerto Rico can get NIL deals and opportunities.
We have a cat bomb.
Cat bomb. I don't know what that was for a second. I thought it was I thought you were about to eat like a chicken nugget. I thought you were just like bringing it up here.
The fluffiest chicken nugget. Just like watch me eat on stream.
Right. Vito, where's Minutes Tennis heading after?
Okay, so they do a trip to New York. They head to Ithaca to play Cornell on Friday, and then head down to the city to play Columbia on Sunday. But they have an off day on Saturday, and we're going to try to figure it out. They probably are getting tickets to see Hadestown or maybe 6, right? You got to see a Broadway show when you're in New York City for a night, especially on Saturday. You have 2 opportunities. You can go to the matinee, which is always a good time, or you can go to the night show, which is very expensive, but fun.
Yes. And the night show's where all the party happens too.
Yeah. Steeg is no stranger to Broadway, as he saw Beetlejuice, which is now closed, in one of its final shows.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The Marquee Theater there, or Marquise. I don't remember which one it's called. But I have season tickets for USF football. That has not paid its dividends. I have season tickets to the Straz. That's paid its dividends. It's fantastic. I might message Coach Moros and see what they're doing, because just out of curiosity, I'm curious if they're going to do anything, or not Moros, Coach Fisher, see if they're doing anything while they're up there. They could also, be straight tourists and go to like Katz Delicatessen or something like that, which I'm sure they're going to do more sightseeing than anything else. But I think that's fun. That's a great opportunity for them to play 2 Ivy League tennis programs. For those that don't keep tabs of Ivy League tennis, that's essentially the SEC football of men's tennis. So we'll see what happens when they play Cornell and Columbia.
Country club schools are good at country club sports.
And they are a country club. Let me tell you something.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. So we'll see if they can turn around and do have a better weekend up in New York. So now we're going to switch gears to women's tennis. Last week they lost to Florida. This week they only had 1 game, and they beat FAMU 7-0, which is very good. How good is that, Steeg? Like just going pretty undefeated. Sometimes in these, you don't. They'll let some of these courts play out. So they won. All their victories were in straight sets, including the doubles, which they let the third court play out. Sometimes they don't do that. Sometimes if the second court or both courts are decided, you don't need a third court. They'll just go ahead and suspend it. Sometimes they let it play out. I don't know the official rules to that. I would love for any of the coaches or assistant coaches or anyone who played or understands collegiate tennis a little more than why that is the case sometimes. If that's just a both programs only playing one game, so might as well, or one match. There wasn't that many games to be won in the set. I'm always curious about that because sometimes you see that and you go, oh, this wasn't suspended. Those other were. That to me would, cause, you're not playing as much over the course of the year if you do that. So again, they played them all. Sierra Berry and Ireland Sim won 6-1 on their doubles match, which is incredible. And then Walsh won her first set in singles 6-0, which is good. Like if you lose 0-6, it's just like, what am I doing? It's hard.
You're getting pantsed over there.
Tennis is hard. I keep watching people play tennis professionally. And like my dad played tennis, and his knees can't do it anymore. But it's hard because not only are you running everywhere, you also need to be able to hit the ball like correctly, and then in the lines, and then also with speed. Right. And then some deception because like you do like the slices. I played Mario tennis a lot as a kid, so I understand like some of the slices. My dad would call it the Brooklyn slice, and I laterally was like, "Oh, that's really funny. That's a really cool tactic." And I was like, "No, it's just a slice. Just everybody calls it whatever they want." So, yeah.
I will say, to answer your question, it is actually a coach's decision to if they're going to play the full sets, or if they're just going to play until a victory is decided. Usually, in this instance. Because USF has only played 2 matches thus far, and they're probably just needing the practice. So they might as well let these girls play out because they got, their shit kicked in by Florida. So it might be a little bit better for them to just go ahead and play the full sets. There's a bunch of different factors that go into it, whether, the lights, if they want to deal with, a little bit of darkness, because there is quite a difference between playing under the lights versus playing like in the day. The match took place during the day, so that wasn't an issue. And, USF needed the practice. Florida A&M also probably could use the practice because they're 0-6 right now. So I'm sure they could have needed it. But winning in straight sets, wire to wire victories always are good, regardless of who you are playing. So great little victory for women's tennis there.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. That was their only match this weekend. So next up, they have a doubleheader. They'll play at FAU on Saturday and at FGCU on Sunday. So they go to the other coast to play some in-state talent. So we'll be interested to see how they do there. Again, they have a lot of really talented freshmen from last year and sophomores. So we're looking forward to seeing what the women can do the rest of the season. So
that's such a weird road trip.
Yeah.
Like I would think that they would just have them both come here instead, or have all 3 play in one place instead of, I don't know. That's weird.
Go one way. Yeah, I guess. Luckily, it's on two separate days. So, yeah.
I think they could theoretically do that on one day, by the way.
That would be a fun embed to talk tennis with like Coach Fisher, or talk to the women's or women's tennis coach to just like ask how some of these, because like in softball, that some of these tournaments are there. It's northern teams coming down to the south to play. But it would be really neat to see how some of these, like going to Murfreesboro to play Memphis and MTSU and not having to go to 2 different locations, going to New York to knock these out, like how that scheduling happens. That would be a really fun thing to do. We're gonna write that down in the docket and see if anyone will talk to us.
Please talk to us. We're bored.
I've got plans that I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna like, slide into the DMs and be like, hey, in the off season, can you do this?
I'm sure they would love that. Get a little spotlight shine on the program. Women's golf is in the middle of a invitational as we are doing this. So they had the first 2 rounds today at the FAU Paradise Invitational. By the way, another tangent for Steeg here. FAU really leaning in this Paradise thing is really good marketing, but is just inherently false. Like Boca Raton is not Paradise.
It's fine. I've never been to Boca. I don't know what I'm talking about. Sorry.
It's a perfectly fine. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Like let's call a spade a spade. Anything that's on the southern end of the coast, so like from like Cocoa down, and then from like, I can't even think what's north of Tampa at this point because I'm brain dead. But like the Clearwater beaches on down, that lower tip of Florida, all of it is paradise. All of it is beautiful. Every single one of those little towns has something to offer, fishing villages, whatever it needs to be. But Boca Raton is just like fine as a town, as a college town, as whatever you want to call it. Kudos to them for leaning into this paradise model of winning in paradise, playing in paradise, yada yada yada. Their campus is located 4.5 miles from the beach or something like that. They're not even the closest beach college in the state of Florida in their own division at times. Shout out Florida Gulf Coast, who has like half their campus on the beach, formerly known as USF. But yeah, just
worst loss ever.
I hate it. But no, back to them for a second. So women's golf finished the day. They are currently in third place at the FAU Paradise Invitational. They're at 9 under par. Vanderbilt, who I believe is in the top 10, maybe top 15, is sitting in first at 22 under par. They have a really, really healthy lead over second place Nebraska at 10 under par. So, the Commodores country club schools being good at country club things, who would have thought that would have happened? They were leading for a good bit there. Melanie Green, who the sensational golfer we have, came out really hot. I think she birdied her first 3 holes or something like that. Just absolutely on fire. She's still playing really well. She's tied third right now at 6 under. She's actually tied with teammate Elise Vidal at 6 under. So both of them in the top 4, top 3, top 4. Yeah, they're in the top 4. I don't know how those are categorized. Vito, help me.
I think you got it right. I don't know.
They're tied third. They're in the top 4 though.
Yeah.
And then elsewhere,
never mind.
Yeah, there's 4, so they're top 4, but there's 3.
If 2 are tied at 3, then the next one's 5.
Yes. Elsewhere, Laura Henlin is at 2 under. Lenora Madero is at 1 over. Juliana Camargo is at 5 over, and then Emma Kim is at 6 over. I thought about using Emma's full name, but I'm not even going to try it. She has a very, it took me a while to get Dulcie's name right, and I still mess it up half the time. I would not be able to get Emma's name, so I'm glad she goes by Emma. So they have the third round. I do a lot of research on these people's names. Third round tees off at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we'll see if they can maintain podium here. Maybe Melody Green can go on a little bit of run, or Zelly, or Lizzie. So we'll see what happens there. But a good start for women's golf. I believe today was actually a program record for them as well. I completely did not even add that to the notes, even though I said that I was going to. 2 seconds. What was it? They, the opening round of 277 set a new program record. And the 36th hole of 567 ranked 3rd all time. So that 277 is an 18-hole record for women's golf at the University of South Florida. Great stuff there.
And that's incredible. They were saying women's golf at the Uprising, where women's golf is starting to really arise, and I think this should be a very good season for them. I mean, Melanie Green already has a bunch of accolades, so we're really looking forward to what women's golf can do.
Hell yeah. I'll let you take softball since I'll do the track and field rundown today.
Okay. Track and field, very impressive. So softball starts this week. I can't believe it's already that time. It's February, and now we get to see what Coach Ken's team can do. So that starts this week versus Michigan on February 9th. And I feel like every year they play Michigan. Every year Michigan's really, really good. And every year it's been a dogfight. Boston College and Boston University on February 10th, and Florida on February 12th. So again, they always start out really, really tough with a few opening tournaments. So this is a very tough slate. So we don't have Georgina Korik anymore. So new pitchers have to replace some offense. It might be a tough start, but you can't take too much away from this first weekend. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But yeah, it might be tough. We got to see what the softball roster can do starting off this weekend.
Right. We got to retool a lot of talent there. Yeah, like Vito said, can't take too much of these early season matchups. It's a lot of teams feeling out each other and feeling out their own roster as well. Both good, bad, and ugly. So, the ugly losses may look ugly, but thank God that, women's softball has mercy rules and whatnot. You usually don't get, too much of wasted effort or wasted bats or anything like that, or wasted arms, particularly. I don't think that they're pretty much knowing what I would know about Ken Erickson. I think they're probably going to use these first couple weeks here to really just kind of figure out that ace, figure out that 2, and figure out that 3. That's been something that he's been missing for a long time, is that third pitcher to get a good rotation going. Obviously, we have Georgina Korik. You always have consistency there.
You can play a bunch of innings. It was just
right. So it's all about finding that balance and finding some bats this year. Georgina Korik is a graduate assistant coach for USF as well. So that's cool. Hopefully she can rub off some good luck on the team this year.
Excellent all around. All these games are at home, so go ahead and check out the softball complex to see. Michigan's receiving votes, but it'll be a tough slate. And then February 12th, softball will play Florida, who's number 4 in the country. So
that's going to be a fun game.
First week, but we move on. Steeg, you said you want to do a track and field rundown. Let's talk about some more success.
Ooh. All right. I'll hit up day 1 here.
We go from Coach Erickson to Coach Eric.
Yes. I will forever mess them up, and I should never mess them up. So track and field competed at the Harvard Crimson Elite and the Bruce Lehane Scarlet and White Invitational up in the Boston, Massachusetts area. This is a very well-known event in the track and field circuit, and it was filled with a top-level competition as well. And USF did extremely well in a lot of events. The aforementioned program records that were beat, starting with Zaquan Lincoln. I'm off to a great start. Broke a program record for 60-meter dash, finished 3rd. And Ashley finished 4th in the triple jump. Romaine Beckford, of course, 1st in the high jump.
Again, that's his 3rd first place finish.
Yeah, he's
many
on
weeks.
A fucking tear right now. I love that man. David Ajama and Kendall Mosley, not to be mistaken or anything like that, finished 4th and 5th respectively in the high jump as well. David Ajama, 1st in the triple jump, won that competition. Kobe Babin got a personal best, but 2nd place in the pole vault. Stone Baker finished 5th in the pole vault as well. Audrey Werfel and Riley Hunt finished 6th in the pole vault. They tied together in the women's. Arden LaRose won the women's mile, and she got a personal best. Hey, look at that long distance running.
Nice.
What was her time? I'm curious on this. I'm gonna take the 25 seconds to look this up. She ran a 4-minute 58-second mile. I did mine in about 8 minutes and 29 seconds. So
4:58, so absurd.
She would have laughed me. My goodness gracious. So yeah, she got a personal best there as well. So that's fantastic. Cora Coolidge and Alyssa Wyatt finished 4th and 6th respectively in the women's mile. Nairi Robinson won the women's long jump. So that's fantastic. Shania Benjamin and Kendall McDonald finished 3rd and 7th respectively. Chanelix Davila won the 60-meter hurdles. Madeline Abega finished 6th in the same competition. Michael Borden III and Victor Steiner finished 6th and 5th in 60-meter hurdles. Why the fuck did I write it like that? Why did I write 6th and 5th? And then Zaria Allers-Levert finished 2nd in the women's 400 meters. So a good mixture of field competitions going extremely well for USF, and the track competition is also going well. A lot of personal bests, a lot of podium finishes all throughout it. Vito, day 2, the better day.
Day 2 was a good day. Shania Benjamin in the 200 meters finished 2nd and got 5th all time in program history. She is rewriting the record books virtually every year. Sneak Walker placed 4th in women's 500. Kendall Mosley won the men's high jump, so that's another victory. Noah Bitter 3rd in pole vault for another pole vault podium finish. Kendall Mosley won the men's high jump. I already said that. Annalise Zinneman third for another in the pole vault for another podium finish. Arden LaRose set a new program record in the women's 1,000 meter run. I almost said mile, which would have been absurd, but 1,000 meter run, excellent. And I find that there's a theme in the past 2 years how much we say personal best and program record for most of these. I almost want to look at that record book and see how much are in the Eric Jenkins era. Yeah, we are a pole vaulting school. We're really good at jumping very high, apparently. High jump, triple jump, pole vault.
Well, triple jump is
forward.
Distance. Yeah, but I mean, you have to get high to do that.
Exactly. Good at jumping. We'll put it that way.
There we go.
Chavoy Reed, program record in the men's 400 meter. Janiyah Burton, program record, women's 400 meter. So again, this medium running, they're still very, very, very good at. And again, breaking program records consistently, getting first place finishes. This wasn't happening 4 years ago. The men's 4x400 relay won and broke a program record. That's Chavoy Reed, Dwayne O'Banon, Michael Bourne III, and Elijah Wright. And the women's 4x400 relay got second, but they broke a program record. That's Janiyah Burton, Shania Benjamin, Denisha Anderson, and Zaria Ehlers Libbard. We'll have to figure out how to say that one specifically because I feel bad butchering a lot of people's names. What's that little last note I just put down there, Steeg, after all of that?
He wrote Jesus Christ.
Just wow. I mean, day 2, mostly all podium finishes and a lot of program records. This is just incredible. They keep getting better every year and they're bringing in good talent. So Coach Jenkins, again, just kudos, hats off. It's just really great to see what they're doing. Let's see what they can continue to do. And I mean, Romaine Beckford, first in the high jump again. He is killing it right now.
I think he's still in like the top 6 or 7 overall of this season for high jump. I think he's still in the top 6 or 7. So yeah, he's still crushing it there. He will most likely easily qualify for the NCAA championship series there. There's a lot of athletes this year from track and field that might be able to get there. That women's 4x400, yes, they placed second, but they're consistently getting better every single week. Shania Benjamin is an absurd athlete, and I think now they have a good 4x400 here. The men's as well has been just on fire. So, they also just had signing day as well. So that they signed like I think 7 or 8 more athletes alone in this national signing day period. So they're also benefiting from just a resurgence of this program. So even going through their roster, I remember from years past, they did not have a roster this deep full of athletes prior. There's weird scholarship limitations and minimums that, track and field has to hit. They're doing really well. And they're still a young team too, which is the weird part. There's a lot of freshmen and sophomore on the roster. Of course, Romaine Beckford is going to be a senior this year, but I mean, the rest of the roster is basically freshman or sophomore at this point.
Yeah. And we're going to do a thing at the end of the season, maybe in the middle of the season, depending on where we get. I just want to see the record book and see how many top 5 are in the Eric Jenkins era, because it's got to be a lot. I keep seeing that word around. They keep having to make new graphics. So looking forward to seeing how the rest of their season goes, but they just keep getting better every year. And the 4x400, the women's especially, they would rotate out teams and still consistently compete at the higher end and podium, get podium finishes and break records. So the fact that they have the athletes to be able to do that is great. But yeah, so up next, they do the Badgers Windy City Invite in Chicago on February 10th. It's going to be cold.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully it's mostly indoor.
Yeah, I think these are all indoor track and field events right now, which is cool. We did not decide our Bellas and Fellas before this.
I like it when it's a surprise. I will go first. So I want to make my Bella someone different. I'm going to say Shania Benjamin, just podiumed in two different events and just continuously breaking records. So I like what she's done the past couple of years and looking forward to what she does later on. And I also just didn't want to do basketball again. So there you go. Shania Benjamin. How about that? My Bella of the week.
I'm gonna shill for it. Tyler Harris is the fella of the week. I mean, got the track and field all season. Romaine Beckford being as ridiculous as he is, but credit where credit is due. Like I said last week, when USF men's basketball loses, they get punished, and I will not acknowledge them. But when they win, I will acknowledge. Tyler Harris, 21 points, just an absolute gem of a human being that was brought in by Brian Gregory and his staff. He has turned some would-be losses into victories just on his three-point shooting alone. So he deserves the credit for some of these victories as well. So we're gonna go with him for my fella of the week, I should say.
Excellent. I think this is a very good segment that we do. So we're an hour and 6. One of these days we'll do a tight 45 like we plan on doing, but that day was not today.
It's not going to happen anytime soon with the new schedule coming up.
There's so much going on. We'll have to figure out how we do this. It's going to be rapid fire. Try to get everybody in there. What the heck? I'll say it. Wizards correct. We have a USF USF Hockey Club has their final home game of the season, 8:15 p.m. on Saturday. They play Embry-Riddle. If you've seen their Twitter account, sometimes I have to double check. It's like they're just beating teams like Miami 10-0. I don't even know how you score 10 goals in hockey. That's very hard. Big fan of our
Florida
USF
almost
Hockey
did that
Club.
Tonight.
That's true. That's very true. So come out, final game of the season, the Advent Health Ice Rink. I've been to 2 of them. It's a good old fun time. It's fun to watch hockey. It's just always fun to watch hockey. Big fan, and I definitely want a hockey sweater. But okay, Steve, get us out of here. Any last bits?
Take care. Brush your hair.
That is very good words to live by. Go see a show. Go have some fun. Go support the basketball teams. And that is it for Steeg and Vito. To all the Baluma fellas and Baluma bellas out there. See ya.